Kmet discusses how one of the Chicago Bears' offseason decisions and choices sent him for a shock, but a phone call from Ben Johnson immediately squashed all of that and helped Kmet refocus and get ready for the season. We're going to talk about what that is. Also, we're going to discuss how Montez Sweat is excited for Jaquan Brisker's return and what he can bring to the Chicago Bears. And Caleb Williams wasn't the only Bears player that got talked about by this coaching staff as regard to their body language. Talk about all that plus 3 Bears who could shock this season. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And we got an honest moment of kind of vulnerability from Kmet, which I really appreciate. And that was Kmet discussing how the Bears drafting Colston Loveland really sent him in a shock, right? And it really was something that he looked at and was like, wait a second, I didn't expect this. Even though there were a lot of talk about the Bears drafting a tight end, it was just a different tight end. But Kmet was honest in regards to how that took him aback, right? And this came from Josh Friedman, who says this. Kmet says he was first taken aback a little bit when the Bears drafted Colston Loveland in the top 10. But he said Ben Johnson called him right away to reassure Cole of where he stood, and he was all on board. Says the goal is to become the best 1-2 tandem in the league. A lot has to be given credit, right, to not only the coaching staff realizing how this could affect the player, but being proactive about going out there and calling that player in Kmet and reassuring them like, hey, this means nothing to where your place is going to be on this team. We are trying to create a situation and an environment where we have a competitive advantage and have that and can go to a 12 personnel set, which we already know that Ben Johnson likes, and we can have versatile weapons. I've said it earlier in this offseason that depending on how Kmet plays, it can go from Colston Loveland being somebody who's coming in here to be a partner with them, or it could be his replacement. But it seems like right now, that because of the honesty and the transparency from the Chicago Bears team is that they want to see what both these guys bring, and that shouldn't be too much of a shock, right? We've been saying that basically since the talk around the Bears drafting a tight end came, and especially right after the draft, and the fact that, no, this does not immediately mean that Kmet's going to be traded or he's going to be phased out of the offense. That this is, especially with the way that Ben Johnson builds this thing out, is that it's going to include and involve everyone. So it seems like the Bears, they continue to make the right decision, and Ben Johnson continues to be that leader of men that everybody talked about the Bears needing here. One thing that when the Bears players and even, the front office talked about what they were looking from in a new head coach, they talked about a leader of men. And Ben Johnson has had that on display this entirety of this offseason and season with just the way that he has been proactive about reaching out to players, communicating to players, talking about what their role is in that, right? And still, there's open camp battles and everything like that. But, this could have easily spiraled into something different. And I think when you have a head coach that makes a phone call to your players and reassures them, it's great to hear that. So there's going to be a thing with football, right? And saying this, from there, you're all on board, and it kind of understood their vision. You understand that there's going to be areas where we complement each other, and there's obviously just like a position room. There's going to be areas where we compete for things. That's football, and that's how it should be. So I'm excited about it. Not only to push him and him to push me, and we're going to make each other better. I think the goal with it is to become the best 12 personnel tandem in the league and see where we can take it from there. Good, right? And keep in mind, this is all while Ben Johnson and Kmet still don't really know each other too well, right? So this goes a long way in building that relationship with your players, and that is a kind of not talking about enough how important it is when you need guys to go to battle for you. We saw the bad end of that with Matt Eberflus. He didn't hold himself accountable, and thus the team, right? The team started drifting off and falling apart after some initial good things, and so it's good. And Kmet going on and add this, but I felt good after leaving the conversation. And I know wherever you meet somebody for the first time, I don't know where he stands on me. And quite frankly, I don't know where I stand on him, because at that point, you're just meeting somebody. I think those are healthy conversations to have. You're just understanding their vision and their expectations for you as a player. It's hard to come into work every day when you don't know your set expectations. I think having those conversations kind of cleared the air a little bit. Now, was that a little dig at Matt Eberflus and that previous coaching staff? Maybe more of Shane Waldron? Probably. Cole Kmet went through a lot last year, as did the offense as a whole, but I think sometimes we don't talk about it enough that, there wasn't a clear-cut role. Cole Kmet came into, last season after having a career year and got phased out of the offense at certain times and favored for Gerald Everett. And that is something that, is still head-scratching in regards to that and how Shane Waldron handled and mismanaged that whole thing. So Ben Johnson coming in after a team drafting a tight end and kind of setting and already kind of forging that relationship is really good. And that's the thing that you're going to have here. The intricacies of Ben Johnson's offense are great, right? And we've heard that. And Cole Kmet then took that and was able to focus on what this offense needs to be. And that's really what everybody's talking about when it comes down to it. Cole Kmet continued to talk about that as well, saying, you name it. Whether it's Caleb, cadence, or how he says a play in the huddle with us, alignments and techniques, and making the right calls, it's every day and it's relentless. He's definitely thrown a lot at us in a short time here in the spring, but I think he wants to challenge us as a group to see what we can handle. I think we've done a pretty good job so far. There's definitely been some ups and downs throughout the way, but I think that's the kind of method to the madness so far. All good things. And that's all you can really take from it right now. Ben Johnson and his attention to detail. And not only the alignments, how you're lining up, taking advantage of the defense, the personnel that you have out there, how and where you use that personnel, that's something that really separates, right, a team. And that's what can give you a competitive advantage. And the Bears are going to be trying to find every angle they can have for a competitive advantage heading into the season after a 5-win season. And so that's what it comes down to. But Ben Johnson is really putting his imprint on this team early on. And that's something that's very clear, evident, and we've talked about it. Sam Laporta, a lot of people talk about that, and he became one of the most productive tight ends in the game of football. And so there's hope that Ben Johnson's going to bring that with Kmet, with Loveland, and they're going to turn into something that the Bears can look at as a weapon tandem for them. And that's what you need as a team. You need that 1-2 punch, and that's something that also can help Caleb. Especially as he's learning the process things and go down the field a little bit more and the accuracy things, having two tight ends that can both catch passes and can block for you and those type of things, having that versatility and the ability to go to a 12-man set, especially while Caleb Williams is also learning to play under center a little bit more this year. Those are all things that help that learning curve. And so I love to hear that they don't have kid gloves on. They're not only opening part of the playbook. They threw everything at players while they're still developing and figuring out who, what, when, where, and how they're going to be effective in this offense. They're getting it together. And so that's things that I love to hear. I love to see this team coming together like we know that they can, right? But let's flip that to the defensive side of the ball. We've talked a lot about Jaquan Brisker over the last couple of days and what he can mean for this Bears team if he's healthy, right? You look at it and, an article yesterday that we talked about called him the one player in that secondary can be a punisher over the middle. And he can, but he has to stay healthy to be able to do that. But Montez Sweat talked about Brisk, and he said this: Brisk brings a lot of energy on the field and off the field. He's just the energetic guy. So you kind of hear him everywhere in any area that he's at. And maybe that was what the Bears secondary was missing on the second half of last season. You look at that 5-12 season that we had, and even the things that are kind of going well for us, a 10-game losing streak, everything fell apart. And getting Jaquan Brisker back on the field to bring some of that identity that the Bears are going to need and be trying to build. And he's not the only one, right? We talked about every level of having somebody who's trying to build some identity on this team and help establish that identity. And that all starts with Dennis Allen as well as the defensive coordinator. But having Jaquan Brisker back, that adds to the flexibility of how you use him and Kevin Byard. And we know how important the secondary is into a Dennis Allen system. That secondary is going to be used all over the place in a multitude of ways and a multitude of looks. And that could be between that and how you line up your strong side linebacker and which player you have lining up there. That's where the special sauce could be for a Dennis Allen defense. And so Jaquan has a huge test ahead of him. Not only is he trying to solidify his future in the NFL and with the Chicago Bears potentially, but when you look at where this team kind of lacked in some areas, Jaquan Brisker has a clear path on how he can help the Bears in those areas. So hearing those kind of things are good. Kevin Byard, really excited to have him back. Now Montez Sweat is really excited to have him back. We've talked about that. Even TJ Edwards, or I think it was Tremaine Edmonds, talked about how the secondary helps alleviate some of that as well. So all facets, every level of the defense has to be in tandem. It has to be in synergy. It has to be in rhythm with one another, because that is where you can take advantage. When you have your coverage, when you have your pass rush, when you have your linebackers, all on the same page. That's where the special thing can be. And I hope that we have the makings here of another special Chicago Bears defense. I can't say for sure until we see it on the field, because we've had talent before that hasn't necessarily been utilized, right? But the difference is that it feels like we have the right guy at the helm as well. Like, the Chicago Bears had some talented players on defense over the years, but between stagnant play calling and injuries, it never really got to hit the exact heights that it could have. Dennis Allen isn't going to have that same limitation. We're going to blitz a lot more. We're going to almost more than double the amount of time that we blitz in, just by the base of how often Dennis Allen calls blitz over the course of his career calling defensive plays. So every level has to be in tandem. Every level has to be in rhythm, and we hope that that's going to continue to happen here, man. Jaquan has to get healthy and has to stay healthy. And like I said on yesterday's live stream, if not, you got guys in the secondary that are going to be willing, ready, and able to step up. And they're going to be looking for their shot and their chance. And, you can lose your spot due to injury. Now, that hasn't happened to Jaquan Brisker yet, but that does not mean it can't happen in the future. So Jaquan has to, and again, it's not his fault. I'm talking about it as if that, let me correct myself on that. In no way am I saying that it is Jaquan Brisker's fault that he's out there trying to get injured. He's not. And I like to say every time, that play that put him out for the rest of the season last year, he did basically everything right on. But, regardless of the reason why and what you did right or what you did wrong, you need to be on the football field for this team. You have to be. And that's what Jaquan is hoping to do and remind some people, because he's not only fighting for that, he's fighting for a contract this year. And if he wants a future here, then he's going to have to do that. And you got other guys as well. Major Burns is a guy. Zay Frazier can be used all over that defensive backfield as well. You got guys in here. And, we'll see what that brings. And if Jaquan Brisker can stay on the football field, the future's bright for Briggs if he can do that. And let's hope that he can. Another player that the future is bright for, though, is DJ Moore. But we talked a lot about how people were criticizing Caleb Williams' body language, saying that he needed to get off the floor a little bit, the ground a little bit more and quicker, and what that does for his team. But it seems like DJ Moore also got an earful about his body language. And this is something that a lot of Bears fans called out at points last time, even going so far as to say it seemed like DJ Moore quit on the team. Now, I never said that, right? But you guys know we do live streams and videos all the time, so I see a multitude of comments. But DJ Moore, when he was asked about what Ben Johnson told him to do or said that he wanted to see from him, he said this: just don't do it. Just keep it inside. Talk about it later. Just don't put it on film. Don't put it on TV. I mean, that's just as clear as can be, right? And it goes again to the evenness that Ben Johnson is bringing. Nobody's getting preferential treatment. Ben Johnson isn't sending any mixed signals on exactly what he wants to see this Chicago Bears team do and how he wants them to operate as a team and as an offense and things like that, right? When you hear that throughout this mini camp, right? I keep calling it a training camp, but throughout the mini camp, that Ben Johnson keeps he'll stop it. If he does not see the right alignment pre-snap, he stops the play and calls it out. He yells, he screams, he does all of that. You got to get a buy-in from players, and to do that, you got to hold everybody accountable. He has been very crystal clear on what he expects from this team, and you can't get the results that you want if the clear expectations aren't there and set. And that's what Ben Johnson is trying to bring to the Chicago Bears team, is clear expectations. But he can get there as well by holding himself accountable. And that's something that the Bears players haven't had here in a long time, is self-accountability from your coaching staff. So, DJ Moore is an important piece to this team. And, I always say how, as Bears fans and as a fandom, we can get too far up, we can get too far down, and the shit can happen very quickly on a player. You can see this fan base turn on a player. And that happened a little bit with DJ Moore. Bears fans are always going to look for somebody to blame something on, right? And we do that because of where this franchise has been for years. It's hard not to do that when you've been so disappointed by the state of your franchise for years and years. It's hard not to do that. So I'm not blaming anybody in that. And DJ Moore had times that he did that. He had times where he said little things. And, he's been boisterous but awkward at the same time. You think back to like right before Luke Getsy got fired. And, when he was asked in his post-interview what he said, he was like, I said some things They may do what I said and asked. I made some things clear. And a couple of days later, Luke Getsy got fired. It was clear that DJ Moore was frustrated at times last season. I think he was frustrated by the play calling. He should have been frustrated in his own performance at times. I think he was just frustrated by the change. A lot of people try to link that to his public support over Justin Fields and things like that and how that could affect the relation between Caleb Williams. I don't think any of that mattered there. I think that what you saw was a player that wanted to compete. DJ Moore's done a lot of losing over his career, and I think he's a player that just wants to win. And you know what? I want those players in my jersey. I want those players that get frustrated by not winning. I want those, the worst thing that you can do in sports is be content and sucking ass, right? It's being content with that. You don't want to do that. You don't want players around your team, especially as you're trying to change the culture, that are too content. So DJ Moore getting frustrated last year, yeah, at times, of course you wanted to see better body language from that. You should have. But I'm going to give it a little reprieve in that because I think DJ Moore is just a player that wants to win. He wants to compete, and he wants to feel like his team is out there having the best chance night in and night out to win some goddamn football games. So let's hope that that's the case. But moving into the last topic for today, there was an article written over on Clutch Points on 3 Chicago Bears hidden gems on the roster that you need to know. And I want to go through that, right? They started off talking about the transformative season that this could be for the Chicago Bears. We all know that. This when you look at how the offseason started with the coaching search and how then the Bears did something that they don't typically do. They hire a lot of first-time head coaches, but they don't typically pay them. Make them one of the highest paid coaches in the league. That's what they did with Ben Johnson. Then the way that they filled out the coaching staff with all the names in this, Dennis Allen was a huge get. Declan Goodell was a huge get as far as him being hired as the offensive coordinator as one of the young up-and-coming minds in football. You got Eric Bieniemy as your running back coach, Dan Rouchar as your offensive line coach, and what he's renowned for doing. So there has been a change to that. But who are the gems on the roster? They list number 1 as Jaquan Dexter. Now, Jaquan Dexter is an interesting point because it's apparently he's this polarizing topic in bull. I had no idea before Darius brought it up. I'm not gonna lie to you that Jaquan Dexter was so polarizing for some Bears fans. But when you look at it and what he showed last year, it was great. But the production fell off late in the season, and you had that. We had a glimpse of that. It was his first year as a starter. Injuries happened, and it came down to it. Like he had to get it together. Now, even his 4 sacks did tie for the lead league in interior defensive linemen. So even though most of that production came at the start of the season, it's still tied for the league for the highest in the league. So that means that if he can have a better consistent season, we'll see what that means for Jaquan Dexter and what he can bring, right? So that's a really good thing. But Jaquan Dexter has something that he definitely needs to start accomplishing and show. He has to grow in the run game and things like that. But I do think now with Dennis Allen, Grady Jarrett coming here to lead him as well, I think that Jaquan Dexter has a huge chance to really have a big season for the Chicago Bears. Next up, surprisingly enough, they mentioned Jonathan Kim in here, a kicker, right? A rookie that he could be a hidden gem on this team and somebody to watch closely in training camp. Now, Cario Santos did struggle at times last year on longer attempts for sure. He had 3 kicks that were blocked from 40 to 49 yards due to low trajectory. And it wasn't just the offensive line. It was the low trajectory on those, right? He did hit a game-winning field goal as well in the season finale against the Packers, which was great. But it does seem like Santos is starting to be on the downside of his career. And the fact that the Bears did bring in a kicker in Jonathan Kim, maybe he is something to watch there. We talked about how the Bears need to make every facet of the game a threat, meaning that defense, offense, and special teams. Now, when you think of special teams, you immediately go to kick returning and punting with Torrey Taylor, but also field goal kicking. When you get, if the Bears can have solid field goal kicking, that is something that as long as you get in scoring position, especially if you have consistency from farther ranges, that puts you in scoring range very early on. So that if Jonathan Kim ends up taking over that kicker spot, cool. Then the last player that they talk about here, right, is Dayo Odeyingbo. And I've talked a lot about him over the last couple of years. A 3-year, $48 million deal. And they say this. He could prove to be one of the most impactful moves that the Bears made this offseason. Now, and that's in stark contrast to a lot of Bears fans that still talk about where we are right now as far as our pass rush needing a lot of help. And I think when you look at it, 4 sacks, 42 pressures on 439 passing snaps, even though he didn't play a lot of those passing snaps. In 2023, 12 sacks, 29 pressures on 365 snaps. If Dayo Odeyingbo works out for this Bears team, and it provides that depth on the opposite side of Montez Sweat. That does a lot for you there, and his ability to play multiple positions as well. So he gives you what you want Dale to be is somebody that you have to keep a body on so you can't double team him. And if you can, so you can't double team Montez Sweat. If you do that, that's there. The combination of size and athleticism and speed that he has, he's 6'6", 286 pounds. That's going to be something you use to exploit mismatches. And so we'll see what that brings to him. But Dayo Odeyingbo, as long with Javon Dexter, Montez Sweat, Grady Jarrett, that's going to be a defensive front that we're all going to look for and see what they can bring. Because if they can bring that pressure, that's going to free up a lot of people in that secondary that Dennis Allen already likes to use creatively. So we'll see what the future holds. Let me know down below who are some players that you think could be hitting gems on this Bears team. Let me know what you think about that. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.